युग्ममृजन्तम् कराम्भोजयुग्मेन शातङ्कनेत्रम् हृदन्तमुहुर्नेत्र युग्ममृजन्तम् कराम्भोजयुग्मेन शातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुश्वासाकां पात्र एकङ्ककण्ठा स्थितग्रैवां दामोदरं भक्तिबाधा मुहुश्वासाकां दामोदरं भक्तिबाधा इति द्रक्ष्वालीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषां निमाजन्ता माख्यपयन्तम् इति द्रक्ष्वालीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषां निमाजन्ता माख्यपयन्तम् तदीयसिताङ्गस्यो भक्तैर्हितत्वम् पुनः प्रेमातास्तां शता प्रीतिवन्दे तदीयसिताङ्गस्यो भक्तैर्हितत्वम् तास्तां शतावृत्तिवन्दे वरं देवा मोक्षं न मोक्षावधिं वा न चान्यं वृणेऽहं वरे सदपीह वरं देवा मोक्षं न मोक्षावधिं वा न चान्यं वृणे इदं ते वपुरनाथा गोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्याविरास्तं किमन्ये इदं ते वपुरनाथा गोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्याविरास्तं किमन्ये इदं ते मुखाम्भोज मत्यन्तनीलाय वृतं कुन्तलै स्निग्धारा कशगोप्या इदं ते मुखाम्भोज मत्यन्तनीलाय वृतं कुन्तलै स्निग्धारा कशगोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितां बिम्बरक्तधरां मे मनस्याविरास्तामालं लक्षलाभ मुहुश्चुम्बितां बिम्बरक्तधरां मे मनस्याविरास्तामालं नमो देवा दामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजालब्धिमज्ञां नमो देवा दामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजालब्धिमज्ञां कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदीनाम्बुतानो गृहाणे समामाज्ञा मे दक्षिदृशा कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदीनाम्बुतानो गृहाणि क्षमाज्ञा कुबेरात्मा जाओ बाधा मुत्यैव याद्वा त्वया मोचिता भक्ति भाजकृत च कुबेरात्मा जाओ बाधा मुत्यैव याद्वा त्वया मोचिता भक्ति कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वाकामि प्रयच्छ नमो क्षिग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वाकामि प्रयच्छ मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह नमस्ते स्तु धाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोद्धरायाता विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमस्ते स्तु धाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोद्धरायाता विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया लीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियाय नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Damodarastakam ki jai. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge, and bliss, whose shark shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who's beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokula, who, due to the offense of breaking the pot of yogurt that his mother was churning into butter and then stealing the butter that was kept hanging from the swing, is quickly running from the wooden grinding motor in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught from behind by her, who ran after him with great speed. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodara, I offer my humble obeisances.
Seeing the whipping in his mother's hand, he is crying and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with three lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To the Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisances.
By such childhood pastime as his, he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokul in pools of ecstasy and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence that he is only conquered by the devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of honor and reverence. With great love, I again offer my message to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times.
O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the nine processes of bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours, as Bal Gopal and Vrindavan, may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use of any other boon besides this?
O Lord, O Lord, your lotus face is encircled by locks of soft black hair, tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yasota, and your lips are reddish like bimba fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benedictions are of no use to me.
O Supreme Godhead, I offer my obeisances unto you. O Damodara, O Ananta, O Vishnu, O Master, O my Lord, be pleased upon me, by showing your glance of mercy upon me. Deliver this poor ignorant fool, who is immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows, and become visible to my eyes.
O Lord Damodar, just as the two sons of Kuvera Manigrava, and Nalakuvera, who were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you in your form as a baby, tied with rope to a wooden grinding mortar. In the same way, please give to me your own prema bhakti. I only long for this and have no desire for any kind of liberation.
O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent robe which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, who is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow down to your most beloved Shrimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Shishi Radha Damodara ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Donor, chapter 83. The talks between Queen Draupadi and the queens of Dwarka. Text number 20 to 24. Text number 20. Srutvai tvat sarvato bhupa ajajurmat pitu puram sarvastra shastra tattvagya sapadhyaya sahasraja sahasrasa sapadhyaya sahasrasa Srutai su, Srutvai tat sarvato bhupa ajajurmat pitu puram sarvastra shastra tattvagya sopadhyaya sahasrasa Srutvai tat sarvato bhupa ajajurmat pitu puram sarvastra shastra tattvagya Shopadhyaya Sahasrasa. Christian. Sutraitat sarvato bhupa ayayumatitu puram sarvastra shastra tattvagya sopadhyaya sahasrasa tato bhupa. Sopadhyaya sahasrasa Srutva, hearing that of this from everywhere, Bhupa, kings, Ajayuhu, came, Mat, my, Pituhu, of the father, Puram, to the city, Sarva, all, Astra, concerning weapons shot as arrows, Shastra, and other weapons, Tattva, of the science, Gya, expert knowledge, Sa, along with Upadhyayaha, their teachers, Sahasrasaha, by the thousands. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hearing of this, thousands of kings, experts in shooting arrows and in wielding other weapons, converged from all directions on my father's city, accompanied by the military teachers. Text number 21. Translation. My father properly honored each king according to his strength and seniority. Then those whose minds were fixed on me took up the bow and arrow, and one by one trying to pierce the target in the midst of the assembly. Purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. According to the Acharyas, only those kings who were extremely intent on winning the hand of the princess even dared to try to shoot the target. Text number 22. Translation. Some of them pick up the bow, but could not string it, and so they threw it aside in frustration. Some managed to pull the bowstring towards the tip of the bow, only to have the bow spring back and knock them to the ground. Text number 23. Translation. A few heroes, namely Jarasandha, Shishupal, Bhima, Duryodhan, Karna, and the king of Ambasta, succeed in stringing the bow, but none of them could find the target. Purport. These kings were very strong physically, but they were not skillful enough to find the target. Text Number 24, translation. Then Arjuna looked at the reflection of the fish in the water and determined its position when he carefully shot his arrow at it. However, he did not pierce the target but merely grazed it. For 4. According to the explanation of Srila Sridhar Swami, Arjuna was more expert as a marksman than the other kings, but his physical strength was not adequate to the task of shooting it with perfect accuracy. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vasaya Bhutale Srimate Rama Swami Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Vasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaura Vani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarine Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. There are some comments made by our Vaishnava Acharyas on these several verses. The scene is quite exciting, like in general Krishna's pastimes. And we have the description of this whole narration in the Bhagavatam, that is a meeting of Draupadi and the king and the queens of Dwarka, Krishna's queens in Dwarka. And we can understand by the narration, just the background in itself. It has been spoken in the previous classes, highlighting the fact that these are pure devotees of the Lord coming together. And what do pure devotees do when they come together? In general, when devotees come together, when there is a sangha of devotees, they naturally, it's just naturally comes that they speak about Krishna. They speak about the glories of Krishna. Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita, famous verse from the Chatur Sloka. Machita Makata Pranas Bodayantas Chamanityam Bodayantas Parasparam Kata Yantas Chamanityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. That this particular type of devotees is a particular type of devotees that Krishna described. Machita and Matgata, which means that Chitta means their hearts, their consciousness is completely devoted and focused on Krishna. It's completely given to Krishna. So those type of devotees who have given their full heart to Krishna, but not only their full heart, but also their gata prana, the goal of their life, the goal of their life, the destination of their life is Krishna. It's just Krishna. And when they come together, that naturally flows. It's just naturally. They completely absorb, translate the word machita as their minds are completely absorbed in Krishna. And their life is completely dedicated to Krishna. That's how he translates. The life devoted to him, Krishna. So when they come together, it naturally flows. So we see here this gathering is a very intimate gathering. Just like yesterday, Krishna Archana was explaining, it was a very intimate gathering between these wonderful devotees, powerful devotees, influential devotees, because these are queens. Draupadi was the queen of the Pandavas, um, who have established themselves as, you know, in the powerful realm of Mahabharata narrates of Indraprastha. Now, mind, remember that this is all happening back in time in the narration of the Bhagavatam. We are discovering that is not chronological, but this happens before the Rajasuya sacrifice. And also happens, so during the Rajasuya sacrifice, several things happens. One, Shishupal was killed. Another one, also, Jarasandha was killed before the Rajasuya sacrifice. During the Rajasuya sacrifice was when Duryodhan envy towards the Pandavas just exploded in the, you know, apex of his envy, basically. He was displaying and acting on his envy throughout, but at this point, it was something that it really reached his highest point. And from that, he was determined to, to basically take away. He actually came to understand that he cannot live in the presence of the Pandavas, with the Pandavas displaying this great opulence and power. So, at the Rajasuya sacrifice is such a critical point in the history of the Mahabharata, because at that point, then Duryodhan came with a plan of taking away, by cheating, by illegal manners, the wealth and the kingdom of the Pandavas. And that was the cause during that time, at that point, when was Draupadi becomes insulted, and Draupadi becomes insulted, then that sealed the whole conclusion of this great epic, this pastimes of the Mahabharata. Because at that point, the destruction of the whole Kuru dynasty was sealed. So, Draupadi is a central figure in the whole Mahabharata narration. And so we get to that, but anyway, I want to speak about that just in terms of, um, um, sort of understanding the wonderful backgrounds that are happening, in these narrations of the pastimes of Krishna. So, but back again to, you have all these great devotees, powerful personalities, all these queens, you know, very influential, coming together. But pure devotees of the Lord, naturally. Draupadi immediately asked, please tell me about how is that you met Krishna? How is that Krishna married you? It's natural. It's natural when your life is dedicated to someone that you want to know everything about it. It's all about that. Look, that they were not interested in speaking about themselves. They were interested in speaking about Krishna, Krishna's glories. And so the whole process, or the whole narration, the whole activity of coming together and listening to Krishna Katha, it becomes something that is of great joy, to Shanti Cha, Ramanti Cha, that it gives great, great pleasure to the soul, to the self. And we have this wonderful verse that Dravida Prabhu translates. I, I, during COVID, I decided to do this project of putting music to some of the poetry that is by our Vaishnava Acharyas. And there's this poetry by Srila Rupa Goswami that explains about this, the joy of talking about Krishna. And Srila Rupa Goswami described this, talks about Krishna as a river of nectar. So I put music to that, that song. Vaishnava Sevananda put guitar track on that. It was really nice. And so it translates like this. It's really fantastic because it's a river of nectar. It's a river of nectar, meaning, do you know that it's really, really enjoyable. And in the description of Srila Rupa Goswami is that when you, that the devotees who are participating in these talks about Krishna, he compares it when the devotees perform, in this case, the gopis or the gopas, Krishna's devotees, perform pastimes with Krishna in the river, and they're doing, they're playing within the river, having these loving pastimes and engage in this very wonderful loving affair. So Krishna reciprocates. So anyway, it's a very beautiful imagery and a very beautiful poetry. And of course, we have the wonderful Dravida Prabhu translating this Vaishnava poetry in Sanskrit, translated as that poetry in English, which is quite wonderful. So here's the translation, the poetic translation. Words that tells of your glorious deeds are a river of nectar, O Lord of my heart. And from those who drink deep at that river, desires for other words quickly depart. Sages that are Chakravaka birds playing, those who drink at the river of talks about you, uprooting the huge tree of death and rebirth, the river their faith ever freshens anew. Waves churn that river, exchanges of love, as you sport with your dear ones, your pure devotees, bubbling and rippling and murmuring sweetly, that stream delights all with divine melodies. O Krishna, O fount of sweet nectareous pastimes, O you whose great deeds should be heard and then sung, may that river of poetry lining your glories, flow into my heart and then over my tongue. So it's enjoyable, and we see that these queens are having this transcendental moment of hearing about Krishna, desiring to hear about Krishna with great, great, great eagerness. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on the verse, the Machita Matprana verse. His comment goes as follows. Their minds, meaning the devotees, are greedy for me. Sorry. Their minds are greedy for my form. Krishna is speaking, or Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is revealing from Krishna's perspective how he understands this verse. As you know, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. So he's telling Arjuna what his devotees do when they get together. And he says, the expansion that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti gave. Their minds are greedy for my form, name, qualities, pastimes, and the taste of sweetness. They are unable to maintain their life without me, just as men are completely dedicated to food, since they depend on it to live. They explain to each other with friendliness about the types of bhakti and the real nature of bhakti, bodhayanta. They talk about me, a great ocean of very sweet form, qualities, and pastimes. They glorify me by narrating about my form, qualities, and pastimes. Since Marana, Sravana, and Kirtana are the best among all types of bhakti, they have been specifically mentioned. Thus, these bhaktas are satisfied and enjoy. This is private or internal experience. So, this is the scenario here. Now, Draupadi, who is the one who is approaching these queens with reverence, and she's asking them to please tell about how they so fortunate to become Krishna's queen, to have this type of position. Now, we can understand that of Draupadi's devotion. We know Draupadi's devotion, but this is before the glories of Draupadi's devotion became fully manifested, which is during the time that when Krishna first, when Krishna was there participating with the Pandavas and with Yudhishthira Maharaj during the establishment of the kingdom of Indraprastha. And then when Draupadi was being insulted in the court of the Kurus, then that's when her devotion became fully manifested to the world. We know the famous pastime from Hey Govinda, she raising her hands and being saved from um, the attempt to fully insult her and basically molest her. She was saved by Krishna, and so her devotion was fully manifest, and a very close relationship that Krishna was always just by her thinking of Krishna, Krishna will manifest to actually assist her or protect her. And so her devotion is a very wonderful thing. And what to speak of the queens of Dwarka. And in this case, we're hearing about Lakshmana, Queen Lakshmana. And it's very wonderful. And our Acharyas explains that, you know, so far, all the other queens, including the more senior ones, Rukmini and Satyabhama and Jambavati, they spoke, but they spoke, they didn't went into an elaboration of the whole pastime. They could, but they 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 didn't do that. They said, you know, basically how they were favored by Krishna in that way, but not with elaboration. And Lakshmana thought, well, they're not doing that because of natural, they're shy, or they don't want to necessarily, you know, sometimes devotees are like that. You're you're a little reserved, so you don't necessarily want to speak too much. And so then Lakshmana decided, no, well, you know, she will tell more because it's about Krishna. And in one sense, also, Lakshmana felt it is very similar, her story, with the story of Draupadi. How Draupadi got married and how she got married, there are quite similarities in terms of the arrangement was very, very close and very, very purposely put together by both fathers, the father of Draupadi and the father of Lakshmana, with a very intent purpose. Drupada, King Drupada of Panchala, was the father of Draupadi. He wanted, he designed that Swayambara for Arjuna to win Draupadi. The father of Lakshmana, can't remember his name, is written in one of the verses. He designed the Swayambara in such a way that Krishna will be the only one who can being able to conquer. So very similar, and very similar task. It was about shooting an arrow on a, you know, you have to shoot the fish through the eye in a moving target. So it was in the ceiling. You have to do it through a reflection of the pond. And in the case of Draupadi, there was the bird, the fish. You have to shoot it through the reflection, but there was a wheel going. So only when there was the opening in the wheel, you can see the target and the eye of the target. So you have to shoot through a moving target, looking at a reflection. So what's the task for Arjuna, designed for Arjuna? The task for Krishna was even more difficult because there was no opening. It was completely covered, and you can see only through a reflection. How that works exactly, it does not explain. But the thing is that it was an impossible, physically impossible task. This other one, the one that Arjuna was able to do, just by looking at the reflection. But in terms for the one that Krishna was designed for Krishna, you have to look up and down at the same time, which is physically impossible. We heard that yesterday. So, but nevertheless, they were designed like that. So they have similarities, and so Lakshmana spoke at length of her, the time that Krishna was conquering her hand or conquering this Swayamvara. So it's fantastic. It's a very amazing narration, and naturally, it creates, yes. When we come to the Bhagavatam, it's like we enter into this river of nectar. So I like to speak about a little bit more about Draupadi because it's such a central character, and such an important personality that is described in the Mahabharata as a symbol of grace, especially under pressure. This is, it's one of the great women in history to be followed. Uh, Under the pressure of all kinds of obstacles and difficulty, she always remained very graceful, resilient, and with this, it was this spirit of womanhood that um, that needed to be fully protected. Now, like most of these great devotees that we see, especially in Mahabharata, if we look externally, we can become very much confused about the character and the acts of these personalities, because it appears that she is driven by revenge. That's what appears. Draupadi, when she was insulted, she made a vow that she won't tie her hair unless it gets washed by the blood from the heart of Dushashan. And it remains like that until Bhima came with a handful of blood from Dushashan's heart and gave it to Draupadi, and she washed her hair. That's it. So one may think she's driven by retaliation, by revenge, but it's not the case. We tend to understand things, conditioned souls tend to understand things from their perspective of reality. But that's not the case with these great devotees. Draupadi was very much, just as all pure devotees, very much in sync with the will of Krishna. In fact, her appearance is part of the great scheme of Krishna's will. Krishna's purpose was to reestablish Paritranaya Sadhanam Vinasaya Tajuskritam Dharma Sanstapanartaya. He came to reestablish the principles of religions, to protect the devotees, and to annihilate the miscreants. And Draupadi's appearance was to assist the Lord on that purpose, on those purposes. So when she appeared from the fire, the voice in the sky say that not only she was going to be this amazing, beautiful person, the most beautiful, but also she will appear for the destruction of the cruel. and from the destruction of many, many warriors. So Krishna's purpose was to take the burden from the earth of all these powerful kings, most of them that were most of them that were deviating, were too enamored with power and were creating this terrible burden to the earth. So Draupadi was very much in sync. So when Draupadi acted like that, was for the purpose of protecting or for establishing the protection of Dharma, religious principle. So you took a stand to protect religious principles. And that was her motivation. Her motivation was that this type of sinful behavior, sinful or this type of demoniac type of governance was something that will create a terrible situation in the world. When there is leadership that is not grounded on the principles of Dharma, then everyone suffers. The whole world suffers. All people suffers. So Draupadi's position was to help that, to bring justice, to bring Dharma, to establish Dharma. And she was basically at the center. She was, because of her, all these different events that led to the reestablishing of Dharma in the world happens. She was at the center. So, very wonderful personalities that we come to um, hear and associate through this Krishna Katha, which becomes like us diving into this ocean or this river of nectar and have a great time. Any comments or questions? Krishna Archan.
Um, you equated the reestablishment of religious principles with a kind of justice. And it struck me because earlier on you'd been talking about, persons looking from the conditioned perspective. And clearly that's more from the egotistical plane because it's not necessarily actual reality. So I was very intrigued that you made this connection between the establishment of religious principles and justice. And it naturally raises a question in the present time because in the country we're living in the United States, currently there's a whole wave of people who are carrying it uppermost in their minds that there should be justice in particularly with division of people and the rights of people of different ethnicities, etc. So, what would be the means to perhaps allow the broader population to understand the connection between justice and actual religious principles?
Yeah, it's a very It's an important subject that one have to understand. The justice that is connected to dharma is divine justice. And um, there's a whole system that governs the universe in which the law is called dharma. And that dharma is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharmas tu Bhagavan Pranhitam. That and there's a whole also system of justice that is established by the Lord or the Lord's governments in the universe that is head by this great devotee Mahajan and Yamaraj. So there's a principle, the principle of justice and the principle of following the law. Now, as a principle, is also the same principle of governance is in man-made systems, social systems, which are flawed. And that's what we see right now is the attempts of mankind of establishing a social system of governance without understanding and connecting to the laws of dharma that governs the universe. So then their system are flaws. So democracy, socialism, communism, that ism, and this ism. These are all man-made social systems of governance. But we know that the social system of governance that is given to us by the Supreme Creator is the Vanashram Dharma. So without that system, then it's very difficult for people to have a proper system of justice because it's always going to be flawed by the people who are carrying out these responsibilities that are still influenced by the mode of nature. So then you're always going to have conflict because people are acting according to their nature and according to how they see reality, and you know their justice, the application of justice is always going to be uh, um, depending on the perception of particular peoples that are carrying out, justice. So it's meant to fail. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita that all the attempts for people who have no faith in the system that Krishna has given us, either by ignorance or by just simply being atheists, but even by ignorance, that we don't understand or don't apply or don't connect to the God given system for living one's life and for functioning in society, or the attempts that we can make outside Krishna's system is meant for failure. It's just not going to happen. So that's the situation that we have with modern society. And regardless how they try, it's always going to be flaws and failures and disappointment because it's not understanding the proper system. And we can go on and go on that. But yes, in general, it's like that. We have to be able to understand Krishna's system. And that's the whole thing. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is giving us a call. You know, is we have to accept Krishna's system and only Krishna's system. Sarva Dharmam Parinam. Mam Eka. So exclusively Krishna's system.
Thank you, Prabhu. First of all, thank you so much. Um, I see you have taken a lot of references from Mahabharat and also from Rup Goswami's poems to prepare for this. A lot of efforts have been put in. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhuji, my question is very, it's related to this story itself. I was just wondering. So, yesterday we heard Mother Lakshmana, she was convinced when she heard from Narad Muni about, how Lakshmi ji herself was attracted to Krishna and she wanted to, marry. And today you also mentioned that her father also was convinced. It appeared to be that he was convinced because it was fixed. Only Krishna could do that. So when father was convinced, when daughter was convinced, why the Swayamvar in first place?
What? Why?
Why the Swayamvar in first place? If father was convinced, daughter was convinced, why do we have? Why there was a need for Swayamvar? Why
Oh,
not
why
just
big
give away?
Swayamvara?
Why not just give away Lakshmana
It's
to
true.
Krishna?
It's true. But I think, yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, one may say that, it really glorifies Krishna,
Right,
you
yeah.
know, because like all these different, the devotees basically are assisting Krishna's pastimes. And so sometimes, even by the influence of Krishna within the heart, with Krishna's potencies, Yoga Maya, things gets arranged with the devotees. Maybe they don't do something or they do something to enhance the whole drama, wonderful drama of Krishna's pastimes. That Krishna likes to be chivalrous. So you you come here and compete in a competition. I mean, we like you really get drawn into right now when you listen to the pastime, and you get like really, oh, Krishna is the greatest. Not even Arjuna. Only Krishna. He's the greatest. So just as Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur asked the question, well, how's that Arjuna didn't hit the thing? You know, he's being the greatest. And even then it says Arjuna also is just part of being very much in sync with Krishna's pastime. I was just thinking also, you can ask the same question. Why did Krishna didn't shoot, during Draupadi's? You know? He didn't. He just was there, watching. He was there with Balaram. But he didn't shoot. So so these are all Krishna's inconceivable pastimes. Yeah, we just dive into and just enjoy. But at the end, really is Krishna's opulences, just being absorbed in Krishna's fame, strength, wisdom, renunciation, beauty. All the things when we hear about, and who cannot be attracted? I mean, whatever you know even speak about Krishna, just like these queens. You know, after being with Krishna or hearing about Krishna, why do you want to speak of someone else? You know, is so that's the whole thing. Our hearts are becoming attracted and purified. Jai. We'll stop here. Grantara Shiman Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you. Hari Bol.